Global warming. When the Earth emits that heat as infrared radiation, the gases absorb it, trapping the heat near the Earth's surface and causing global warming. The topic, global warming, in overview. Human-induced. Up to the second assessment of human-induced global warming since the second half of the 19th century, Oxford University. Warming. Even if efforts to minimize future warming are successful, some effects will continue for centuries. The topic, warming in overview. Feedbacks. The response of the climate system to an initial forcing is modified by feedbacks, increased by self-reinforcing feedbacks and reduced by balancing feedbacks. The topic, feedbacks in overview. Climate model. Numerical climate models use quantitative methods to simulate the interactions of the important drivers of climate, including atmosphere, oceans, land surface, and ice. They are used for a variety of purposes, from study of the dynamics of the climate system to projections of future climate. Climate models may also be qualitative, i.e., reduce. They also reduce the growth of raindrops, which makes clouds more reflective to incoming sunlight. Clouds. The effect of clouds is the largest source of feedback uncertainty. The topic, clouds in overview. Cloud. In meteorology, a cloud is an aerosol consisting of a visible mass of miniature liquid droplets, frozen crystals, or other particles suspended in the atmosphere of a planetary body or similar space. Water or various other chemicals may compose the droplets and crystals. On Earth, clouds are formed as a result of saturation of the air when it is cooled to its dew point, or when it gains sufficient moisture, usually in the form of water vapor, from an adjacent source to raise the dew point to the ambient temperature. They are seen in the Earth's homosphere, which includes the troposphere, stratosphere, and mesosphere. Melting permafrost. Arctic amplification is also melting permafrost, which releases methane and CO2 into the atmosphere. The topic, melting permafrost, in overview. Ice. As these surfaces flip from reflecting a lot of light to being dark after the ice has melted, they start absorbing more heat. Permafrost. Permafrost is ground that continuously remains below 0 degrees Celsius 32 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 or more years, located on land or under the ocean. Most common in the Northern Hemisphere. Around 15% of the Northern Hemisphere or 11% of the global surface is underlain by permafrost, including substantial areas of Alaska, Greenland, Canada, and Siberia. Emissions. Burning fossil fuels for energy production creates most of these emissions. The topic, emissions in overview. Carbon. Carbon, from Latin, carbo coal, is a chemical element with the symbol C and atomic number 6. It is nonmetallic and tetravalent, making 4 electrons available to form covalent chemical bonds. It belongs to group 14 of the periodic table. Carbon makes up only about 0.025% of Earth's crust. 3 isotopes occur naturally, 12C and 13C being stable, while 14C is a radionuclide, decaying with a half-life of about 5,730 years. The topic, carbon in overview. Soils. Soils contain large quantities of carbon and may release some when they heat up. The topic, soils in overview. Soil. Soil, also commonly referred to as earth or dirt, is a mixture of organic matter, minerals, gases, liquids, and organisms that together support life. Some scientific definitions distinguish dirt from soil by restricting the former term specifically to displaced soil. The term pedolith, used commonly to refer to the soil, translates to ground stone in the sense fundamental stone, from the ancient Greek word pi delta omicron nu, meaning ground, earth. Fertilizer. Nitrous oxide emissions largely come from the microbial decomposition of fertilizer. The topic, fertilizer in overview. Fertilizer. A fertilizer, American English, or fertilizer, British English, see spelling differences, is any material of natural or synthetic origin that is applied to soil or to plant tissues to supply plant nutrients. Fertilizers may be distinct from liming materials or other non-nutrient soil amendments. Many sources of fertilizer exist, both natural and industrially produced. Co2. On the other hand, Concentrations of gases such as Co2, 20%, tropospheric ozone, CFCs and nitrous oxide are not temperature dependent, and are therefore external forcings. Nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide, dinitrogen oxide or dinitrogen monoxide, commonly known as laughing gas, nitrous, or NOS, is a chemical compound, an oxide of nitrogen with the formula N2O. At room temperature, it is a colorless non-flammable gas, and has a slightly sweet scent and taste. At elevated temperatures, nitrous oxide is a powerful oxidizer similar to molecular oxygen. Nitrous oxide has significant medical uses, especially in surgery and dentistry, for its anesthetic and pain-reducing effects. Co2 levels. Higher atmospheric Co2 levels in an extended growing season have resulted in global greening. The topic, Co2 levels, in overview. Carbon dioxide in Earth's atmosphere. Carbon dioxide, Co2, is an important trace gas in Earth's atmosphere. It is an integral part of the carbon cycle, a biogeochemical cycle in which carbon is exchanged between the Earth's oceans, soil, rocks, and the biosphere. Plants and other photoautotrophs use solar energy to produce carbohydrate from atmospheric carbon dioxide and water by photosynthesis. Greenhouse gases. Before the 1980s, it was unclear whether warming by increased greenhouse gases would dominate aerosol-induced cooling. The topic, greenhouse gases, in overview. Renewable energy. Renewable energy is energy that is collected from renewable resources that are naturally replenished on a human timescale. It includes sources such as sunlight, wind, rain, tides, waves, and geothermal heat. Although most renewable energy sources are sustainable, some are not. For example, some biomass sources are considered unsustainable at current rates of exploitation. The topic, renewable energy, in overview. Renewables. To achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, renewable energy would become the dominant form of electricity generation, rising to 85% or more by 2050 in some scenarios. Radiating. However, the atmosphere is not transparent to heat radiating from the surface, and captures some of that heat which warms the planet. The topic, radiating, in overview. Radiation. In physics, radiation is the emission or transmission of energy in the form of waves or particles through space or through a material medium. This includes electromagnetic radiation, such as radio waves, microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet, X-rays, and gamma radiation, gamma. Greenhouse gas. A greenhouse gas, GHG or GHG, is a gas that absorbs and emits radiant energy within the thermal infrared range, causing the greenhouse effect. The primary greenhouse gases in Earth's atmosphere are water vapor, H2O, carbon dioxide, Co2, methane, CH4, nitrous oxide, N2O, and ozone, O3. Without greenhouse gases, the average temperature of Earth's surface would be about 18 degrees C, 0 degrees Fahrenheit, rather than the present average of 15 degrees Celsius, 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Water vapor. However, water vapor and some gases, in particular methane and carbon dioxide, absorb radiated heat and re-radiate that heat within the atmosphere. The topic, water vapor, in overview. Increased Co2 levels. Around the same time, Hans Suess found evidence that Co2 levels had been rising, and Roger Revelle showed that the oceans would not absorb the increase. Air. Air pollution, in the form of aerosols, not only puts a large burden on human health, but also affects the climate on a large scale. Water vapor. Water vapor or aqueous vapor is the gaseous phase of water. It is one state of water within the hydrosphere. Water vapor can be produced from the evaporation or boiling of liquid water or from the sublimation of ice. Water vapor is transparent, like most constituents of the atmosphere. Prehistorical. There have been prehistorical episodes of global warming, such as the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum. Climate change. Contemporary climate change includes both global warming and its impacts on Earth's weather patterns. There have been previous periods of climate change, but the current changes are distinctly more rapid and not due to natural causes. Instead, they are caused by the emission of greenhouse gases, mostly carbon dioxide, Co2, and methane. The topic climate change in overview. Methane. Methane, US, methane, UK, methane, is a chemical compound with the chemical formula CH4, one carbon atom bonded to 4 hydrogen atoms. It is a group 14 hydride, the simplest alkane, and the main constituent of natural gas. The relative abundance of methane on Earth makes it an economically attractive fuel, although capturing and storing it poses technical challenges due to its gaseous state under normal conditions for temperature and pressure. Naturally occurring methane is found both below ground and under the seafloor and is formed by both geological and biological processes.